do you have any plans to have kids one day? Well, the, the, the thing is, you can only marry or be in a relationship with somebody if they want it. You can't force anything on anybody. If you force anything sexual, if you force anything sexual on anybody, it's regarded as rape by law. And if you try and force a relationship or try and force friendship on somebody, it's called stalking. And I've posted the film Stalking Laura in the description, which is available to watch free on YouTube. You can pay to watch it if you like, but there is somebody who's posted it and it's free to watch. Um, what am I getting? The point I'm trying to make here is that some people, I think, especially teenagers. When I say people, it's probably in most cases it's probably teenagers really who date somebody because they're being pressurised to, and they just want to get others off their back. And once they've gone out with that person a couple of times, but they don't have to carry on. That if they don't want the pressurising will stop. But it's I don't know if you've ever seen the film Fiddler on the Roof. But the film Fiddler on the Roof is about the Russian Jews, and in the sort of culture that they are, they had arranged marriages. You didn't. They didn't have dating as we know it in the Western world. That was frowned upon. What they had was you had someone chosen for you by either by your father or by a matchmaker, and you weren't allowed to pursue someone. You had to have a matchmaker. A matchmaker would have to find someone for you they considered suitable. You couldn't just date someone because you fancied them. You couldn't do that. And there was an elderly gentleman. I think he was a local butcher. I think, and his wife had died, and he fancied the daughter of this top off. This top off. This Jewish, this Russian Jew was trying to get his daughters married off. His name was Topov, and the film was all about him really. In this film, he sang "If I Were a Rich Man," dum. And I think it was a local butcher who asked. He went up to Topov and asked for his daughter's hand in marriage, and she's like in her early 20s, and he's goodness knows how old. He's an elderly gentleman, and he's just lost his wife, and he decides that he fancies this young girl who's in her early 20s, and he goes to ask for his daughter's hand in marriage, and because Topov's had a lot had to put up with because Topov's been subjected to been lumbered with a life of poverty. He's never had very much money. He jumps at the chance of money being brought into the family. Well, I don't know if that changed things because how could you know how generous this bloke is with his money anyway? But when this local butcher is supposed to be quite wealthy, asks for his daughter's hand in marriage, he thinks, yeah. But the only snag is because he's much older than this girl, she doesn't fancy him, and she says, "Oh, Papa, I cannot marry him." And he says, "You will if I say so." But and he could actually make her get married because he's responsible for it. In that sort of culture. You can make your children marry someone whether they like it or not because they have arranged marriages. But he's not so strict with his daughter really. In the end, he breaks the agreement he has with this local butcher, and he doesn't force it to. He doesn't force the marriage on her. But it actually, to be perfectly honest, I think it was up until last year in this country, 16 and 17-year-olds could get married with the parents' consent, and they've actually scrapped that. I think it was last year they scrapped it, or it was either this last year or the year before last. They've made it so that minors can't get married. They've outlawed minors getting married. Nobody under the age of 18 can get married now. That's so that you can't be forced into a marriage that you don't, into an arranged marriage that you don't want by your parents. That's the reason why they made that law. 16 and 17-year-olds could marry with the parents' consent. Well, because in some cultures you have arranged marriages, the parents pick out someone for their child who they think is well off, or they think is ideal for their child, and it could be somebody who's a lot older than them who the teenager has not got no interest in whatsoever, and because of the law existing as it was before, 16 and 17-year-olds could be forced to marry someone by the parents who they didn't want to. So that's the reason why they've changed the law. The law's been altered now, but minors aren't permitted to get married. They can still have sex, but they can't. But they can't. They can't get the whole marrying with parental consent. That's been scrapped. But that's the reason for it, because under the old law, under the law, as it existed before, 16 to 17-year-olds could be forced into an arranged marriage by the parents. So that's the reason why they scrapped it. But in this film, Fiddler on the Roof, that this top-off, he said when his daughter was refusing to get married to this older guy, he was saying, "You will if I say so." But basically, the reason why he agreed to this marriage was because it would bring some money into the family. But he wouldn't have got any of it anyway. I mean, why should your son-in-law give money to you? He doesn't have to, does he? So it wouldn't have made any difference anyway. Wouldn't have made any difference to his financial situation. But sometimes there are some cases where someone fancies someone, and that person said, "Sorry, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to go on a date with you." And this person who fancies them thinks, "You will if I say so," and that's basically what this film is about. This guy, it's actually a true story. It happened in real life. It's not portrayed exactly as it happened in real life, but it's more or less true to life in its portrayal of what happened. And this Richard Farley is played by Richard Thomas, who played John Boy in The Waltons. He's basically saying to this woman who's refusing to be in a relationship with him, he's saying to her, "You will if I say so." which is just completely futile because you can't make someone fancy you. In fact, if you're going to resort to stalking someone, you're just going to push them further away from you by doing that. So it's all completely bonkers. But some men do it. So if a woman doesn't fancy them, they will resort to stalking to them. They resort to stalking them, and it does happen. But the fact that this film is a true story shows that it does happen. But even if you don't get stalked, but by the person who fancies you, you can still be pressurised into relationship by others that you don't really want by others. And this is I got pressurised to date someone that I didn't really want to when I was on the youth training scheme. But the thing is about teenage, the 16 and 17-year-olds. There's a big thing amongst youngsters of that age that you have to be normal. You can't be the odd one out. Anything different is sort of it's picked up on. It's like I'll give you an instance of a girl that I knew. She went to a local college. It was called St John Dean's College, and it's in Northwich. And she wanted to wait until she found someone who had the same religious beliefs as her. She wanted to wait until she felt she was old enough, and she found someone who she felt she was compatible with, and she went to this St John Dean's College, and she refused to date boys, and because of this, they called her a lesbian. Well, what happened to me was that there was this youth training scheme. I lived in Barnton. I lived in Barnton in Northwich, and me and my mum went in Winsford Job Centre when I left school. I went on this. I went on the youth training scheme not far from where I live, but it was to do with electronics, and the guy who was this guy who took me on. He thought I couldn't do it properly because the electronic components were too fiddly for me. And he didn't keep me on very long. And me and my mum went in Winsford Job Centre, and they put us on to this training scheme next to the Winsford Bacon factory. Well, it's not a huge. The building still exists. It's still a workplace of some sorts. I don't know what I don't know what it's called now. It's still a workplace of some sorts, but it's not a youth training scheme anymore because the youth training scheme was scrapped by the government donkeys years ago. And but pretty soon after I started there was a girl a couple of years older than me who decided that she fancies me. And she came up to me in the canteen one day and asked if I'd go and meet her at a bus stop somewhere. And because, there was no, I didn't feel physically attracted to her. I didn't feel I was compatible with her in any way. I wasn't really interested in having a relationship with the opposite sex at that age. But the problem, the thing where I slipped up was I didn't make it quite. But when she asked me to go and meet her, to go on a date with her, I didn't make it quite clear to her that I wasn't going to go. And I went in the next day, and she'd been in tears, and I got a lot of. It was that was when all that was when all the problems started, because they kept getting a lot of the other young people on this scheme started getting on at me because I stood her up, and but once again, this thing about being different, that started to rear its ugly head, because this guy who was on the training scheme with me, he thought that everybody else in the canteen of this youth training scheme where I was all dating members of the opposite sex, and I wasn't. And so he thought the question would be raised as to whether as to my sexual orientation. He thought the question could be raised as to whether I had homosexual tendencies because of this. And you have to remember that this was the 80s. I mean, I don't have any homosexual tendencies, but this was the 80s when you have to remember that in 90 sort of like up until the age of consent for homosexuals wasn't lowered until the 90s, and it wasn't equalised with the age of consent for hetero practices until quite a while after that. In the 80s, it was 21. This was because of the taboo that was attached to homosexual to the homosexual practices. And anybody who practiced homosexuality practiced under the age of 21 was regarded as child. It was more or less on the same level as child abuse. Under the age of 21. As I said before, you could actually legally get married at 16 if you got your parents' consent. I mean, you can get married. You could get a 16-year-old could get married to anybody of any age if they were. If you could get married to somebody at 65 if you got your parents' consent. So no, it's very uncommon for youngsters of this age to date people who are a lot older than them, but it does happen. I mean, there was. I can mention his name because he's dead now. There was that nightclub owner, Peter Stringfellow. He was going out with a 16-year-old girl when he was 55. So, but the thing is, you can't jump to conclusions about someone's sexuality because they won't date somebody, or because they don't want to date members of the opposite sex. They may not feel ready for a relationship. It's not. You can't just teenagers just like that. They jump to conclusions, and no one should be pressured into a relationship either by the peers or by the person who fancies, by the person who fancies them. And that's the point I'm trying to make. If someone doesn't want to date someone, if you've got to be pressurized into a relationship with someone, you don't really. That's a sign that you don't fancy them and you're not compatible with them. So, how long has this gone on for now? I've gone on for longer than 20 minutes. I don't believe it. Anyway, bye-bye.